You're listening to Boobies and Newbies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today we are getting spooky because we here at Boobies and Newbies believe ghost stories and ghosting stories are appropriate all year long. Before we dive into today's episode, I do just want to say that I've got a few major announcements in the works heading your way soon. Some exciting changes and additions happening to the podcast that I'm hoping to roll out this summer, and I'm super excited to talk about them, but I'm still working out the final details, so please stay tuned. And the best way to do that is to follow the podcast across social media at Boobies Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. As always, you can listen to past episodes of Boobies and Newbies on your favorite podcast app or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. If you're a fan of the show and you've got a couple minutes to spare, I'd greatly appreciate a positive review on Apple Podcasts. And last but not least, if you'd like to show the podcast a little extra love and get some behind-the-scenes sneak peeks at what's coming up next for us, bonus clips from episodes, and so much more, I highly recommend you head on over to Patreon and join us there. Plus, you gain instant access to all of it for as little as $1 per month. You will find links to all of the above in today's show notes. And now, let's talk about ghosts of romance past and present. Joining me today is paranormal-obsessed co-host of the Three Spooked Girls podcast, Tara. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, especially because I feel like I'm a fan of your podcast, first of all, and so I've wanted to do something together for some time, and I think I found the one romance novel
Oh my God, yes. It was
out
perfect.
there that was well suited for the two of us to talk about.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Three Spooked Girls and just how the podcast came to be? Because I feel like there's a crossover of a lot of people who read romance that also happen to love true crime and paranormal. So we've got all to offer between the two of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Three Spooked Girls is a true crime and paranormal podcast. We post twice a week and we kind of just flip-flop between the spooky and then the true crime. We started because literally it was in the early days of listening to podcasts, like 2017, 2018. And I was listening to And That's Why We Drink, which is also paranormal and true crime. And I'm like, you know what? Me and Jessica, my co-host, talk about this stuff all the time. Let's just try it. It doesn't seem that, being so naive, it doesn't seem that hard. It'll be fine. Like, spoilers, if you ever do a podcast, it is a lot of damn work. So there is that.
Ma'am.
But yeah, that's how we just came about it. And we've just been going ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have hit some milestones with this podcast. I think last I saw, how many episodes? What was the official download?
Oh gosh. So we're at over 300 episodes because we're crazy. And then we just passed 2 million downloads a couple months ago. So yeah.
That's incredible. Something
Thank
to be
you.
very proud of.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, and here you are stepping away. Well, not really from the paranormal and true crime side to join me and talk about romance. But like I said, the book we're going to talk about kind of is the perfect blend of the
100%.
two, which what's funny is when I mention paranormal romance in general to people, the first response I get from them is like, oh, ghost fucking. And I'm like, not as much ghost fucking
Not
as
so
you would
much.
think. Not so much. And yes, this book does have ghosts, but I do just want to tell everybody, not to be too disappointed that there is no ghost fucking to be had in this book. But, maybe someday, maybe another book.
I mean, shit. Scary Movie 2, they had a ghost sex scene. So I'm sure it's out there. If that's your thing, I'm sure you could find it.
Yeah. Just one more thing we need more of in the world. I don't know, but to each their own. But I do want to know just a little bit about your experience with reading romance. Are you a newbie to the genre? Are you a longtime reader?
Yeah, I'm very much a newbie because kind of stereotypical. I typically read like murder mysteries and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I joined Book of the Month Club about a year ago,
Oh,
and
nice.
I've here and there I've started getting some romance to kind of help with palate cleansers, So it's been nice. One of my favorite ones that I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue. I liked
By
that one
Casey
a lot.
McQuiston.
Mhm.
Yes. Have you read the follow-up book? I mean, granted they're not connected in any way, but she had
Mhm.
a second book come out this past year that's it's two women called One Last Stop, and it's
Oh.
also very charming.
Yeah, not yet. I have it on my list though. Definitely want to read it.
Good.
Yeah.
Had you not joined Book of the Month, like did you see yourself picking up a romance novel for any other reason?
Not really, because it was
Mhm.
just I think for me, when I thought about romance, it was always like my mom reading those smut novels when I was a kid, and I was just like, I
Sure.
don't want to read those. But, there's like so many little subcategories of romance I feel now that
Mhm.
it is very enjoyable. And in this book we're going to talk about, I read it so fast. I loved it. It was great.
I'm so glad. Yeah, no, I think it's funny. I think there were definitely those of us when we were kids that saw our mom or grandma or like what was usually some maternal figure like reading
Mhm.
romance that were like, ooh, I want to read that. And then there were the rest of us who were like, oh God, well, if mom's reading it, I
Right?
can't. I
Yeah.
can't, and so I fully respect that, but I love that, even if it was by happenstance of joining Book of the Month that you had romance come into your life.
Mhm.
Yay. And hopefully there will be more.
Yes.
Especially now that you've read both this book and Red, White, and Royal Blue, which are
Mhm.
polar opposites as far
Oh,
as
yeah.
I feel like romance goes.
Yeah.
So, where can the good people find, follow, listen to Three Spooked Girls?
Yeah, so Three Spooked Girls is on all the podcast platforms. So where you're listening right now, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, all that great stuff. And for social media, our handle's easy. It's three, like the number, Spooked Girls. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And then if you are a TikTok person, I am over there as spooky_sleuth. And I do mainly true crime, but I also do incorporate books
Mhm.
sometimes and spooky and then my pets.
Yeah, well, you got to fit in the fur babies somewhere, you
Right, I
know?
know.
I think just as like you liked using romance as like a nice palate cleanser, for me, I like using pet videos as like a palate cleanser,
Yeah.
or I strangely will use like murder as like a
Mhm.
palate cleanser.
Yep.
Like I'll go from reading romance to watching true crime documentaries.
Mhm. Yeah, it's usually like I was like that before, but then when we started the podcast, not only was I consuming stuff I wanted to consume, but I was also doing research, so it was just like every day
Yes.
is murder in my life. So
Mine's similar, but with romance in that
Mhm.
there are so many books that I read that are specifically like for the podcast, but then there's the other books I read that people reach out to me and want me to read and review their books. And
Right.
then there's the ones that if there's time left, I just want to read for me, like just on
Right.
my own. So I can see where sometimes it becomes more of less enjoyable and more of like work.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, let me go ahead and tell everybody the book we're going to be talking about today. We've teased it enough. So, today's book is I'll Come Back for You by Charish Reid. And this contemporary Black romance was published fairly recently, March 2022. It's available on Amazon for $3.99, Kindle edition. And longtime listeners might remember we actually covered another book of Cherish's a while back called The Right Escape. It was like a charming trip to Ireland where her wedding didn't happen and she
Mm,
falls in love with, the hot Irishman
I love it.
professor next door. Oh, so good. And I was really excited when I saw that Cherish was writing this book because I feel like it just ticked a lot of boxes for like what I was looking for. Like, love me some Black romance, haunted house, reality TV show. I am trash.
Yes. Oh, I am
anything
too.
Related to that. So I was really excited, and the cover, by the way, is really fantastic.
Yeah.
So that alone, I think, will get a lot of people to just dive into this. But yeah, big fan of Charish's books in general. So I was excited to read this one because I try not to double up on the authors we read for the podcast, just because there's so many, unless we're doing like a series. But with this one, it just felt like such a departure from what I've read of Charish's before that I was like immediately intrigued, and I knew this would be like a perfect read for you.
Yes.
So, or I hoped at least. So let me give everybody the synopsis for this book, which I wish I could say was like the quick bite-sized synopsis. It's not. It's fairly detailed. And then we will dive into the chat. So here we go. When a hurricane destroys Whitney Beck's chances to run a Miami resort, a bed and breakfast inheritance from her eccentric grandmother saves her and her sister Helen. Okay, I have to pause because I feel like already we've like hit so many like classic tropes in romance. We inherited something.
Yes.
Eccentric grandmother. Like these are all sisters running a business together. Like that's all in one sentence.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, within months, the Beck sisters run into paranormal problems. Missing objects and bumps in the night. Helen reaches out to her favorite ghost hunting show for help, but Whitney can only feel dread. Her high school crush is the lead camera operator for Ghost Punters.
That's my
and
favorite
after
thing.
years, yeah, let's talk about Ghost Punters for a second before I continue, because I have to tell you, it took me a hot second to put it all together, because I was like, well, clearly this is like a playoff of Ghost Hunters. Like, I know it, you know it, Charish, Reid knows it.
Yeah.
But Punters was the part that threw me. I was like, why are they what's the punting? And then I realized that the guy who's the host is like a retired football player.
Right. It makes it so much better. Which when I read that, it made me think of Ghost Adventures more and Zach, and I was just like, oh my god, I love this.
I thought, and you know what? It's so funny you went that route, because of course I immediately thought of the other thing I love to watch, which is like home renovation shows. And the fact that like Vanilla Ice has one now, Snooki has one now, like all these celebrities who I'm like, wow, it's really lucky you also know how to renovate houses. Like,
you're so well-rounded.
Whoa, I never saw this side of you on the Jersey Shore. Oh. Yeah, so I will admit that took a couple chapters for me to put together, but we got there eventually. Ghost Punters.
Yes.
And after years of missed chances, she doesn't want to meet him again under these circumstances. Reality television has helped Deon Grant carve a path toward his dream of directing films, but he feels guilty about the fake stunts along the way. His crew uses cheap parlor tricks to create good TV, but those methods won't work at the Bordeaux B&B. While battling an actual ghost, Deon gets to know Whitney again. She's different from the girl he knew years ago, but their bond is still powerful enough to reveal his true feelings. Almost done. The past doesn't stay in the past, and the dead don't stay dead. Whitney will have to confront her trauma and family secrets before she can succeed in business or love. Deon will have to slow down and finally see the truth standing before him. Ghosts are real, and so is his love for Whitney. Okay, that's the whole book right there. Like,
pretty
you know,
much.
you don't even have to read the book. That's the whole thing. So tell me, I know you said you like zoomed through this. Was this like a one sit read for you?
No, because I joined a book club too, so I'm horrible. I always read multiple books at one time. But
Oh, you're not alone. Don't worry.
but I definitely read it, I think in just a couple days, which is fast for me.
Okay.
So like 2 days, maybe like 2 different sittings.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I like to read at night once like I get the kid to bed and all of that. So yeah, no, I love
a nice ghostly romance story before bed.
Yes.
Well, how about just initial impressions? What are your overall thoughts about this book?
I liked it a lot. I feel like because towards the end it does get intense with like the scary stuff. I feel like the spicy stuff balanced it out pretty well. So I was here for it. And I, like we already said, I am a huge like reality TV person, and I will binge the hell out of Ghost Adventures. So
love it.
I was here for all of that. I was here for it.
My new one that I watch all the time, especially since I downloaded the ID app, is Deadly Women. That's
so good.
My go-to fave. I love the reenactments. Oh, like I'm trash for a reenactment. I miss that show 1,000 Ways to Die. That was another great one.
Yes.
That just so bad. But yeah, no, and I will say I've worked in reality television, and so I like books that when there is a reality TV element definitely expose like the behind the scenes part of it, that so much of it is fake, so much of it is scripted. I think that won't surprise many people.
No.
But depending on what environment you're into, like I could see where this group of people on this show, they have like a fun dynamic between them, because really it's just a few people. It's the main guy that's the face of the show. We have the fake, medium that's supposed to like communicate with the dead. We have the poor PA who just is a PA. I mean, we'll just they do whatever needs to be done. And then we have obviously Deon, the cameraman, and then the sound guy. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's their like traveling team who filmed this show. And I was like, I wish I had the opportunity to work on a show like that, because that seems like less people to get in your way. Although if you don't like those people, I could see where that'd be like really close quarters to have to be with those people all the time. Reality television, definitely one of the things that I'm trash for, both the actual TV and also in my books.
Yes, I'm here for it. I love it so much.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing I really liked was that this is something, and you don't read a ton of romance, so maybe this isn't something that you would think about as much as I do, but I loved their ages because Whitney is 39, Leon is 40, and you don't get to see a lot of romances between characters who are over 30 in general. So, and usually when they are over 30, it's usually like, oh, one of us has gotten divorced, or one of us has lost a partner, or, I'm just like, it's okay for them to still be single at 39 and 40. Like, especially if you work in TV, that's very normal.
Yeah, I know. When I first started reading it, I thought they were going to be way younger. So I did appreciate that too. So I liked it. And I know because I'll watch like rom-com movies and they're always extremely young, or what you said.
Yeah.
So it was a little refreshing to have that.
I haven't watched it yet, but speaking of reality TV, there's that new show on Netflix called The Ultimatum. Oh. Have you seen it?
I watched all of it. It's a train wreck. It is so okay, I'm sorry. It's so stupid though, because literally everybody's in their early 20s.
That's what I was going to say, is that I haven't watched it yet, but from what I've heard from people, it's the whole concept is just like issuing an ultimatum to your partner. We need to get married or move on. And from what I've heard from friends who have seen it, they're all telling me that these people are like 24, 25. And what's the rush?
Right? And most of them had only been dating maybe 2.5 years.
Yeah, I can't. And here you have, this is what I like about Charish's books, because I've read several of her books. Her characters are always mature, not only in age, but also just in emotional maturity. Like they have conversations and they interact like real fucking people. Like they talk about stuff. So I mean, what I love about this book is that even though Deon and Whitney they haven't seen each other in a while, they've always had like this thing since high school of like, you know, oh, I have a crush on him. We missed shooting our shot. And then they run into each other years later and they almost hook up. And she, you know, gets sick in the bathroom, so they don't. Like, and he pets her back while she's throwing up like a good dude. And then when they get back together, you know, during the book, it's very much just like we're vibing, okay, and now we're having sex. Like it's so real. It's just like kind of like what dating and relationships I feel like look like for so many people today. It's like we're not necessarily all meeting our partners by happenstance at the grocery store. I feel like there's way too many ideas that people will meet people at the grocery store, which is just weird to me. But no, I loved that. I thought that was really, really sweet and also sexy.
Yeah, no, for sure. For me, I would never meet anybody at the grocery store because most of the time I Instacart it. But if I do go, I'm like, please don't look at me and talk to me. I just need to get this and get out of here.
Yeah, please don't make any comments while I'm like bagging up my cucumbers, okay? Like I'm here to get this and get out.
Exactly.
Yeah, the age though was something that I feel like was really refreshing, and I am starting to see, I feel like, more authors take note of that. And I it's one of those things that I think about too, where I just imagine if you're an author and you've been writing for several years, I would assume that your characters would like age up as you age up. That like maybe you don't want to write about 22-year-olds when you're in your 40s. Like, and maybe some people do. Like, I'm not here to judge. Well, yeah, but I just, it's one of those things that at least for me personally, I guess I would just feel weird writing about people who are like so much younger than me today.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of TikTok references.
Oh God. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I will say the one thing that drove me nuts, and this is such a petty note on my behalf, is that we meet Deon, and then like 2 pages later, Whitney has a phone call with her dad, and we find out that his name is Leon. And I just was like,
right.
What?
Ew, too close. Damn it, could have named him like Charles or something like very opposite.
I've said this so many times because I'm sure you've had this too, where you've read books where it'll be like, her name's Sarah, his name is Sam, his sister's name is Samantha. I'm just like, what?
Why?
If you're not going to make some joke about like, we name everybody in the family by like the same letter of the alphabet or something, like if there's no acknowledgement and everybody just happens to have similar names, it's a no from me. Like Leon and Deon, it's too much.
I know. At first I had to like reread that. I was like, wait a minute, who's she talking to?
Did you have any petty notes like that? I feel like I always have like a couple of ones where it's not really about like the author's writing or the story itself. It's just something that annoys me personally.
Man, I think that mainly.
Was there anything within the paranormal part of it that maybe from your experience and like the stories that you guys have told on the podcast stood out to you as either something really on point or something that just like seemed like a little false or inaccurate?
Yeah, so the description of the entity, I don't remember what she calls him, the man in black or something like that.
Yeah.
It definitely reminded me of the Hat Man, which is like really connected to sleep paralysis and very creepy. And he's just supposed to be an evil ass entity. So I was like, that works. So I feel like she kind of connected with that. And then I also thought it was funny because when they at the end were doing the seance to get, or not this, whatever, to banish him, the crew's like, this is too witchcrafty. I'm like, you have a paranormal show. It's okay. The network's gonna eat this shit up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
This is gonna be like a ratings bonanza. Yeah. I liked that. First of all, I love that story about the what was it? The Black Hat Man? The Hat Man?
The Hat Man. Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting because it really, if that has like ties to like sleep paralysis, I feel like that works so well with Whitney's story, because we get this whole backstory of how, you know, she's always worked in like hotel management, and she had a very traumatic experience at a hotel in Florida during a hurricane that, oh God, I mean, one more reason not to go to Florida.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, nope.
But so of course she runs away to inherit this, you know, bed and breakfast from her grandmother, but she doesn't sleep. She's like always staying up at night. There was a part of me that kept wondering if we were going to go into, you know, like this is all a figment of like her, I don't want to say her imagination, but like of her trauma, like manifesting itself like as an entity or creature. But at the same time, I'm glad we didn't go that way, because I'm just so tired of watching and reading stories about like gaslighting women and like, oh, it was all in her head, it wasn't real, you know. So I thought that we were going there for a second in that scene where there's like the scratching at the door, because I did find it interesting, and maybe you know more about this than I do, but I found it interesting that like the way the entity would approach them would be like isolated. Like she would hear scratching at the door, but nobody else would hear it, or people downstairs wouldn't hear like the earthquake happening in the attic.
Yeah, so that comes up in a lot of stories. So he calls her weak and things like that. So it makes sense to target her because she had already been through that trauma, and we learn towards the end that she's repressed a lot of it, which it's like I can see why that's scary as shit. So usually with these kind of stories, the entities will either pick someone who's been through trauma, so they're like emotionally, and I say this with like quotes, like damaged or weakened, or they're close to death themselves, so their health's declined. So that makes sense as far as that goes. And I don't have really an explanation on like other people not hearing, but it's definitely like, especially in horror movies, that happens all the time. They're like, no, I didn't see this or hear this, you know, blah, blah, blah. It makes complete sense why it targeted Whitney, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. I think what Charish Reid did really well with this book in general is that she kind of covered all these bases of like paranormal activities. Hey! Because I feel like we hear stories about, you know, seances. Okay, they have a seance. Which also leads to, we hear stories about people like being possessed by a spirit. So during the seance, the spirit channels itself into their poor sound man. And then we have like the noises. We have, you know, a shadowy figure. I mean, there's just so many different examples of like ghost lore that we've heard it from like so many different stories, podcasts, documentaries, and everything that are all thrown into like this one location, this one story. I liked it. I think just as much as I would recommend this as like a newbie romance read, I think I would recommend this as like a newbie paranormal read, because you really do get a taste of a lot of aspects of what paranormal means.
For sure. I just feel bad for the sound guy. I was like, why did you pick him?
I know, poor Mike, man. Mike was getting victimized too often. I wanted the stupid football player host to like get a taste of his medicine.
Right? You fake all this shit, so now I'm gonna possess you to let you know what's up. That would have been perfect.
That would have been great. That I feel like that would have been, it would have been the movie, you know, like that would have been the movie version, is like, there he is. And he's also like still really like ripped. So it's like him walking around like evil, but also jacked. But yeah, no, I thought that was fun. I really liked the paranormal aspect of it. I would like to see more ghosts in romance in general. And I'm not just talking about ghost fucking. Like, I just think that ghosts are so much a part of relationships in general that both physically, I guess it's not physically, but like emotionally and mentally also, though, that it's like we have these ghosts of like relationships past like haunting us. Really, if you think about it, Deon is like a ghost of Whitney's past. Like they never really isn't that the whole idea behind Ghosts, is that they have unfinished business? Like, that's Deon and Whitney to a T.
100%.
But they finished that business.
Yes, they did.
Do you want to talk about some of the steamier moments?
Sure. Let's do it.
And there's a few, I have to say, for a short book, because at least on the Kindle, it only comes in at like a little over 200 pages. I was very impressed by the amount of steam we got.
Yeah, she definitely like jam-packed it in there. I was surprised too, because I was like, oh, this is short. Like, there'll probably be like one.
Yeah.
I'm glad they got it in. I'm glad they got it in though.
Yeah, they got it all the way in.
If they did it, I would have been like, Deon, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, and at the same time, it doesn't feel rushed. Like, I can see where some people might read and think like, oh my God, like this is so quick, like the progression of their relationship. But at the same time, this is the thing about what we call second chance romance, is that they already have this built-in history. Like, yes, they didn't actually technically date in the past or have a relationship, but they've had feelings for each other for years. And so it's definitely believable for me to, you know, see those feelings like finally manifest themselves physically.
Right. Yeah, because in their timeline it was over 20 years. So, and it's just like the matter of the fact is they're adults. We're adults. It's like, if you want to do it, you're gonna do it. Just saying.
Yeah. And they do. They do it in the bed. They do it against the wall. They do it in the shower. Like, so good. What was, do you have a favorite sexcerpt that you want to share with the class here?
Let's see. I highlighted stuff in my Kindle. So can I say one that's like technically not one, but I thought it made me laugh?
Yeah.
At the beginning, because I was like, get it, girl. Okay. So I think it was like, it's shortly after they got there because it was on an early page. Okay. And then it says, I need you to get rid of the ghost in my house and I need you to fuck me senseless. It doesn't even need to be in that order. I was like, yes.
Love
do it.
No, I love that from the moment Deon gets to the house, they're both just like, well, it's gonna happen, but like, I know we have to like get this ghost out. Like, we're here to do a job, but also like, when can we fuck? Like,
right? She's like, all right, it's time, and he's like, let's do this now, please.
That's a good one. I have one that's like kind of similar, and then I have one that's like actually sexy, but there's a line. I think this is the first time that they have sex, but he says to her, "You take it so well, honey," he said, staring into her eyes. "Keep giving it to me," she whispered.
Yes. Oh my God.
So good.
I think I highlighted that one too, actually.
I highlighted quite a few places.
There was one I highlighted that was a whole fucking page. Let's see. Is that okay? Is that too much?
Oh no, you go to town. You read as much as you want.
Okay. She stifled her hoarse cries behind a clenched fist and rode Deon's face until the earth split apart. Light shined through, and she was drenched from her own juices. Her heart tripped over itself, her breathing stuttered, and her legs loosened from Deon's ears before she could open her eyes and witness her own destruction. Or renewal? Whitney panted against her fist, waiting for her mind to catch up with her body, or the reverse. Her brain was scrambled, and it didn't even register that Deon had left the juncture of her thighs and climbed up her body. When she looked up, she noticed his arms bracketed either side of her shoulders, and his body rested against her aching middle. And then it's the "how do you feel, baby" thing. But I was like, yes. That just made me think like personal life, being like, yes, when you have like really, really good sex, yeah, she got it. She got it in the story.
He is all about her needs, which we know from like the very beginning, even before they have sex, like, because we have the memory of like the last time they tried to hook up and she had too much to drink and he took care of her. You know, he literally picked her up, took her to the toilet so she could throw up, and is like stroking her back and telling her it's okay. I'm like, this man is a caregiver. I love it.
Yes. Treating her like the queen she is.
Absolutely. I highlighted part of that scene as well. So I'm going to skip to my next highlight, which is near the end when they're in the shower. So,
ooh, yeah.
Yep, I'm here for it. I think this is after they they get rid of like the ghost and they're like, we got to shower off all the ghost stuff. And at first I was like, wait a second, you are not Charish Reid. You are not going to like have these two characters be like, she's inviting him to shower in her shower, but she's going to let him do it on his own and like not join him. I was like, this is not acceptable. But then I was like, oh, thank God she's getting in the shower with him. So here we go. This is before they even start having sex. He starts like soaping her up.
Yes.
After a long day of taking care of guests, Deon wanted to take care of her. See, there you go. Caregiver. Mm-hmm. He wanted to rub her into a puddle of relaxation before fucking her. As if his dick were listening to his thoughts, it jumped against the seam of her ass. His hands moved to her breast, massaging them with slick soap, perhaps giving them a little too much attention. When she looked over her shoulder with a knowing smirk, he grinned back. I'm just being thorough. Whitney laughed until he pinched her stiff nipples. She let out a harsh breath and squirmed against his now aching erection. Deon continued to massage and pinch, delighting in every whimper that escaped her beautiful lips. It turned him on to witness her unravel in his arms. Fuck me, she breathed, arching her back against him. His grin widened as his hands left her breasts and soaped her soft belly. I'm not done washing you. You're only gonna dirty me up again, Whitney countered. And then he does.
Yes. Yeah, I highlighted that one too. And I was like, if she just lets him go in there, this is going to be very disappointing.
I know.
I was glad.
You don't have, it's the whole like forced proximity thing. And yes, I know that like they're in like a whole house. So it's not like they have to be in this one room, but you're going to tell me that like these two people who have been trying to have like a moment alone together to fuck it out, that they're finally having this moment and he's going to take a shower and she's not going to get into the shower with him.
Exactly. I know. It was like one you were expecting, but then it delivered. So it was good.
Yes.
It was good.
So satisfied on all accounts for sure. Yeah, I'm interested to see, I think this is a one and done. I don't see this being a series, even though I love her sister. I do love her younger sister, and as much as I'd love to see her get a book, and I guess she could have a story as well, because by the end of the book, she decides to take on the, as they call it, witching that their grandmother used to do. I'm like, I'm here for it. I would read more books about sisters who co-own a bed and breakfast and get witchy sometimes. Yeah. Like, that's pretty cool. But I don't see there necessarily being more.
I agree. And I feel like if there isn't, I'm pretty satisfied with how it all ended. So
I am too. I feel like sometimes I finish a book and I'll be like, oh my God, is that it? Like there's not more, but I really do feel like this was wrapped up really nicely. And actually I did want to share a little something. I love, I follow Charish on social media, and she posted this tweet a while back after the book's release. And I thought this was a great thing to say about the ending of the book in general, because just some key words for you, Tara. We use the terms HEA and HFN a lot when we're talking about romance. And all that means is a happily ever after and a happy for now. And the only thing that kind of separates them is generally in the happily ever after, we've become so accustomed to it meaning like marriage, children, everything's like that's like the end game. Like that it's like, okay, it's a few years in the future. They're settled into their love. They have their house. They have their kids. They're together. They're married. And so HFNs are usually more of like a little more in the early stages. Like, okay, we've decided that we've said, I love you. We're going to continue to date, and that's kind of the way that this book ends. However, this is what Charish had to say about the ending. The HEA, for I'll come back for you, doesn't end in marriage or babies, and that doesn't make the book an HFN, happy for now. The goals for Whitney and Deon are fall in love, confront trauma, eliminate ghosts, advance respective careers. That should be HEA enough. And I think mission accomplished on all fronts. And I love the way that Charish laid out, well, these are the goals that these two characters had. And that means that when they achieve those goals, this should be their happily ever after, whether or not that includes the aspects that we would typically associate with a traditional happily ever after, aka marriage and babies. And that's what I would like to see more of in the future. I talk about this all the time. Not that I don't love marriage and babies, but I'm just saying I would love to see us redefining what an HEA looks like.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like their HEA was definitely very realistic,
Yeah.
for their jobs, and their lives and everything like that. And I feel like for a lot of people who, whatever industry or whatever's going on in their life, that is being with your person. You don't have to get married. You don't have to do all these things. Like whatever makes them happy at the very end should be their happy ending.
Yeah, I'm with you. And as somebody who's like spent their entire life in some facet of like the performing arts and the industries surrounding that, this was like, to me, like the perfect HEA, because I'm just like, this is how most of my friends and their partners live their lives is, somebody goes off to do a 6-week shoot and then they come home. Somebody takes a job, filming something or modeling for something in New Zealand and then they come back. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I find it healthy because I just, the idea, and granted I'm single, but the idea of like spending all my time with one person forever just is wild to me. But again, I'm single. I haven't found that person, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting that she tweeted that, but also I really appreciate it. And that's something I'd like to see a lot of people just apply to their books, like moving forward. Like, we're living in a different time now and talking about things differently than we were 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, for sure. 30 years ago, completely different. So it makes perfect sense that our books and our movies and our shows should reflect those conversations that we're having.
100%.
Well, do you have any other notes about the book or, excerpts, anything you want to discuss before we move on to giving this book some ratings?
It's not really like romance stuff, but I liked it just because, like, for me, I'm a super advocate for like mental health and things like that.
Oh, thank you.
When they talked about the
therapy,
the cow and the buffalo. Yeah. When they were talking about therapy and she explained that, I just thought that was like really good. She said, she's talking to Deon during this and she's like, yeah, in therapy, I was talking about this, which was also relatable because like to my partner and then also like my best like to Jessica, we talk about therapy and stuff. So I feel like that was really relatable. Sure. So she's talking about this comparison of a buffalo and cows. And she says, when a storm appears on the horizon, cows instinctively run away from it. They run as fast as cows can, but when the storm catches up with them, they're exhausted. Avoiding the lightning and the rain only works for so long before they have to face it down. He gave a nod. But the buffalo? They charge the storm. They run right for it, facing it head on. The faster they deal with it, the faster it passes over them. I hear you. A faint smile of recognition lit his face. Are you the buffalo now? Whitney wrapped her arms around her body as she looked up at him. I became the buffalo when your weird crew showed up. You helped me run towards the storm until I made it on the other side.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I'm glad you brought this up because I meant to, anytime I see discussions about therapy or just like taking care of your mental health in general in romance, I always do want to talk about it. And what I find especially interesting about that in this book, and granted, keep in mind this is coming from the perspective of a white woman, from what I know because of my friends who are Black, I don't think therapy is something that's necessarily widely accepted amongst the Black community, at least in time past. I can't speak for like what's going on now and like how things are changing in the world we live in, but I do know from these conversations that I've had with friends that it's just, there's always been like a stigmatized view of therapy. Well, there's been that in general, but especially within the Black community, that you just man up and you just do take care of whatever needs to be done. And so to have, this is a Black romance. We have two main characters, both of whom are Black, that they're talking about this openly. Her sister's encouraging her to go to therapy and talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Deon's very supportive about it. I loved that. I thought it's just one more way I feel like Charish is destigmatizing, just as she did with like the idea of what an HEA is.
Yes.
Within this book.
Yeah, I appreciated it a lot. And I just feel like it's good because, I don't know, maybe it's just also our age too. I feel like growing up, it was the same thing. Like, I was the first person in my family to go to therapy. Like, nobody ever went.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, quit being dramatic. You're fine. Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's becoming a lot more normalized. And then seeing it in works of fiction, whether it's books, TV, also helps for those that still struggle with that. You know, so I thought it was really good that she included that.
This is why, and I feel like this conversation comes up a lot, usually revolving around some backlash for some book or author, and then it all devolves into the same conversation again, where people will use the blanket statement, it's fiction. It's fiction. Like, don't buy into it. It doesn't have to be realistic. And yes, it's fiction. This is a work of fiction. It is a romance novel. However, there are still elements that, when displayed in like a realistic manner and looked at in a specific way, and in this case, something like therapy that's being portrayed in a positive way, that we can look at that and reflect that back into our own lives and vice versa. Because we're having these conversations more openly today, we're seeing those conversations reflected and those attitudes reflected in the media that we're consuming. And so I don't like when people use this of like, it's fiction, it doesn't have to be believable, it doesn't have to be realistic, because there's still so much reality to it that it's hard for me to like pick and choose the elements of reality that you want me to believe. Like, this is taking place in modern day upstate New York. They have a reality show. These are all very real elements of the life we live in today. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
Why not take the time then to discuss something like this in a realistic and positive light so that we can do it on our own on this podcast and beyond after we finish reading the book. So I'm with you. Well, let's go ahead then and give this book a few ratings. And for the purposes of this podcast, I know everybody has a different rating system for everything, but we rate for heart, humor, and heat on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be for you, of course. So let's start with heart. What do you think?
I think it's up there for about a 9 or 10. I liked it a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Especially just mainly when I think of that is like the dynamic with Deon and Whitney. Like that was really good for me.
I agree. And I feel like if you add in like her relationship with her sister, I feel like that's really strong. And I know that their parents aren't there, but there's still some involvement there. Like, even though they have like a strained relationship kind of with their mom because of their grandmother, they can still call her and turn to her for help. And she's like, here, take notes on how to banish this ghost with your shea butter, which I loved.
I know.
So good. Yeah, I'm with you. I would probably give it a 9. I do think it was a really high heart book, both romantically and then also just like amongst the family as well. So humor, you know, there's definitely humorous moments, I feel like, but it's not the leading factor for me, at least. I did find myself, though, on more than one occasion, give let's say a chortle of Yeah. What do you think, though?
No, there's definitely a couple things where it just like kind of makes you giggle a little bit, but it's definitely on the lower end, I think. But that's fine for me. So I'd say like between like maybe a 5 to a 6, but still like that wasn't the focus. So that's not a negative thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny because I feel like one of the funniest moments for me was kind of as they were preparing the altar for the like ghost banishing, which I thought was really fun, just because everything that they're trying to put together, they're like, well, did we have this oil? No, but we have shea butter, so like I'll melt it down and it'll be fine. Like I thought that one scene was actually really funny, and it's all leading up to like the dramatic climax.
Yeah.
Weird, but great.
Yes.
I'm with you. I think overall I'd probably give it a 5 because there was comedy. I'm not going to say that it's not applicable, but is it a rom-com? Nah. It's, you know, maybe if there weren't killer ghosts in it, like maybe if the ghosts didn't have bad intentions, but like this ghost like genuinely wanted to hurt them.
Yeah. It was straight up just like, I'm gonna kill you, it's fine.
Yeah, and specifically Whitney.
Mine.
He's like, you're out.
Poor Whitney.
I'm sights set on you. I'm like, oh man. Okay, how about the heat? All those you know, spicy scenes and dialogue moments.
Yeah, I loved that. I'd say a 9 or a 10, just like, because like we said, for being such a short book, there was quite a bit of it, so I liked it. And I'm such a newbie. I probably am easy to impress anyway, but like,
hey, that's great.
It was good.
I think a lot of authors will want to send you their book after they hear that. I'm going to go a little bit lower, and it's only because I've read so many books and I kind of have expectations for like where my heat level is set. Yeah. For me, when you bridge the gap between like a 7 and an 8 is when things start to maybe get like a little bit more kinkier. Like we add in some toys, or we add in some butt stuff, you know, just, but that being said, I do think because there were multiple scenes and they never did it in the same place twice. I mean, that's exciting. So I think I would do probably like a 7.5. But the sex was great. The sex itself, I'm like, this is 10-star worthy sex.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Well, okay, you've read your first, maybe, I'm presuming, your first paranormal romance now?
Yes, I have. Yes.
So is it safe to say that maybe you'll read more in the future?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I loved it. Yeah.
I love it. I love that you've gone from like contemporary queer Prince of England and President's son romance to killer ghost in the attic reality TV show. We gotta, you know, fuck out our tension romance. So it's a broad range, but you know what? There's so much in between and beyond.
I love it. Yeah. No, it was funny because with that other book, I only read it because Jessica kept pestering me. She's like, it's so good. It's so good. I know you don't like this stuff. Read it. And I read it and I was like, okay, I loved it. So yeah, but I'll definitely read more romance. I loved it.
Yay. I love it. Is there something else you like want to read in romance that maybe like you don't know where to start? Like, do you want more paranormal? Do you want to explore something completely different? Like, what are you in the market for?
Oh God. I'm honestly in the market for anything. I do like when the characters are older, especially because I'm in my 30s now. So like, I feel like it's just more relatable, but I will literally read whatever. I don't care. You can send me all the books, all the lists. I will buy them. I have Kindle Unlimited. It's fine.
I love it. I love it. So it seems like maybe from between like the book of the month experience and your experience with reading I'll Come Back for You, that there's maybe been like a shift in perspective just as far as like the genre in general.
For sure. For sure.
Good. A positive one, I should say.
Yes.
A positive shift.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, between all of the paranormal experiences and research that the two of you have done for the podcast, you might just need to write your own paranormal romance. What would that look like? What would the paranormal romance by 3 spooked girls look like?
Oh my God. It's funny you say that though, because for the last like year, I've thought about if I do want to write something or if I want to tackle writing an audio drama.
Ooh.
It would definitely be in that niche. I've helped out one of my friends with some of his editing, and it's so much work. Oh my God, it's so crazy, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had like ideas in my head, but my life's been kind of crazy the last 6 months, so I haven't like sat down and actually thought about it. I've done some character development, so we'll see. But
yeah,
it will definitely be spooky, maybe a little true crime, and definitely have some queer characters in it since I'm in
now they just have to kiss.
Well. Exactly.
Another one of my favorite things to read is queer people kissing. There you go. That sounds exciting. And I mean, if you want to throw in like some ghost fucking here and there, like feel free.
The market may be there. We will see.
At least the market of one. Like, I'm on board.
Right?
So you can count me in, Tara.
I'll just write it just for you. And then we'll be like, do we include this? Do we not?
Perfect. It'll be like the Patreon exclusive just for Kelly.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a delight. And everybody, please go check out Three Spook Girls because it is so much fun. And, you know, like Tara said, there's like, they cover a wide variety of topics. I mean, even lately, we were talking about it before we started recording. Y'all have been doing recap episodes of Inventing Anna. So there's so much to be had in the realms of true crime and paranormal individually. And y'all have put those together and made a nice little sandwich of criminal activity. So I'm a fan and I can't wait for other people to find you guys too.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, I had a great time.
Ghost fucking for the win. Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Newbies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow Boobies and Newbies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Boobies Podcast.